Welcome to our YouTube channel where we explore the key insights from popular books. Today, we dive into The Organized Mind, Thinking Straight in the Age of Information Overload by Daniel Levitin. So, let's dive into the summary of this incredible book. But before we dive into the content, I kindly request a moment of your time to appreciate this video by liking it, subscribing to the channel, and ringing that notification bell. Your support means a lot to me. And don't forget to discover the incredible Comfier full body massage mat with shiatsu neck massager detailed in the description box. Personally, it's been a true game changer for me. Don't miss out on this amazing opportunity. Click the link now to get yours today. Thank you so much. In this insightful book, Daniel Levitin, a renowned neuroscientist, sheds light on how our brains can effectively navigate the overwhelming amount of information in today's world. Levitin explains that our brains are not designed to multitask efficiently. Rather, they work best when focused on one task at a time. He introduces strategies for organizing our thoughts and tasks to improve productivity and decision-making. Levitin discusses the importance of decluttering our physical and digital spaces to reduce cognitive overload. By creating a system for organizing information, we can free up mental energy for more important tasks. The book delves into the science behind memory, attention, and decision-making, offering practical tips on how to leverage these cognitive functions effectively. Levitin provides strategies for improving memory retention and enhancing critical thinking skills. The Organized Mind will show you how to adapt your mind to our modern information culture, so you can work efficiently without feeling exhausted. 30 years ago, travel agents made our reservations, clerks helped us find what we're looking for in stores, and typists helped us with writing and correspondence. Today, we are doing ourselves the jobs once delegated to 10 different specialists while also trying to keep up with our private lives. Now, the average supermarket stocks 40,000 items, while we only need 150 to satisfy 80% of our needs. So every time we do groceries, we have to ignore at least 39,850 items and struggle to find the ones we want. In the meantime, thousands of words, images, and videos are uploaded and wait for us on the internet. How can we keep up with so much information and complexity? In The Organized Mind, Thinking Straight in the Age of Information Overload, cognitive psychologist and neuroscientist Daniel J. Levitin suggests you give up. Give up getting as much information as you can and take a Zen approach instead. Slowing down and focusing on what really matters, one thing at a time, are the keys to handle today's speed. Here are 3 lessons about the mind from this book. As a result of over 10,000 years of evolution, the human brain can't deal well with today's complexity. Keep your physical environment clean and simple, and your mind will feel the same way. If you want to work efficiently, use external devices for organizing, remembering, and focusing on a single task. Let's see how you can build what the author calls an organized mind that leads you effortlessly to good decision-making. Lesson 1. Our brains can do one thing at a time and find it hard to handle the present overload of information. Our genes haven't changed much from when we were hunter-gatherers. Back then, we needed deep concentration just to survive. The human brain evolved to focus on a few inputs at a time. We can only handle the most important information in that precise moment. This means we focus on the things that, for our ancestors, would make the difference between catching and being caught. We also developed the ability to notice modifications around us, like things that change or suddenly move, are likely to grab our attention. This is very useful to help us not get hit by flying objects or to escape car accidents, but makes it hard to live in a world that changes so fast. In fact, attention costs energy and is a limited resource. Moreover, today we are bombarded with information, which forces us to make continuous choices. What should I eat? What to wear? Where should I spend my weekend? For each question, there's a world of possibilities, all coming with countless data to analyze. The problem is the brain consumes energy to take decisions, even if they're small ones with no real impact on our lives. Furthermore, making choices is time-consuming and distract us from what's really important. It prevents us from being present and do our best in the here and now. Lesson 2. Organize your environment the way your mind likes it and you'll avoid fatigue. To make it easier for your mind, organize your house and office to best suit your brain's approach. If you want to simplify your life, Designate a place for every object and put it back in its place after using it, Marie Kondo style. Our brain is very good at storing locations. It has a dedicated area for that, which we can even train. Its name is the hippocampus. Our mind likes categories too. Levitin recommends grouping objects according to their appearance or function. For example, you can choose a place for all your pencils based on their gross appearance, or you can have a space for gray pencils and another for colored ones, or fine appearance. You may also divide objects in accordance with what they are used for. For example, you might put forks, glasses, and dishes together. There will be items that don't fit in any category or are too few to deserve their own space. Put them in a junk drawer. Think of it as another category and check what's in it from time to time. Remember, the brain has a special alert that turns on every time something changes around you. Keep your space the same as long as you can and your mind will be fresher. Lesson 3. Organizing your work means decluttering your mind and focusing on one thing at a time. So how can we cope with today's overload of information, especially when working? According to the author, the most fundamental principle of the organized mind is to shift the burden of organizing from our brains to the external world. So write down your ideas on paper or digital devices and schedule your tasks. Never keep them in your mind. The brain can store information but isn't good at retrieving it. When we try to remember, information often comes out distorted and we don't even realize it. But most of all, we don't want to tire out our brain loading it with data that we may put elsewhere, do we? Levitin also suggests you dedicate time to tasks and decisions only as much as they're worth. Analyze them each and choose your next step. Drop it, do it, delegate it, or defer it. And always use the 2-minute rule. If something can be accomplished in less than a couple of minutes, do it right away. To work efficiently, it's essential to do one thing at a time, avoiding distractions and interruptions. Multitasking doesn't even exist. When you think you're multitasking, you're actually switching very quickly from one task to another with fatigue and loss of time. Even if you don't realize, you are being less productive, and in the end, you'll also feel more tired. The organized mind is not just a collection of tips to boost your productivity. With insights from science and practical examples, Daniel Levitin helps you understand how the human brain has evolved over time. He explains how the mind works so that you can remember things and manage your work and life without fatigue. Who would I recommend the Organized Mind summary to? The 20-year-old student who wants to be more efficient at studying in order to gain more free time. The 35-year-old woman who struggles to balance work and family. And anyone feeling the day is too short to do everything that needs to be done. How can we live less stressfully in the modern world, where we have more demands on our attention than ever before? In his bestseller, The Organized Mind, author and neuroscientist Daniel J. Levitin suggests that the key lies in sorting and externally storing your thoughts and organizing the things around you, which means writing down your thoughts and arranging your physical environment so your brain has less information to manage. Levitin argues that doing so allows you to use your brain power more efficiently and make better decisions. In this guide, we'll explore how the modern world overwhelms us, why our current approach to dealing with it doesn't work, and why you should sort and externalize your thoughts and things instead. Then, we'll discuss strategies for sorting and externalizing your thoughts, things, and relationships, like how carrying a pack of note cards can help you focus. We'll discuss other experts' recommendations for dealing with overwhelm and their tips for sorting and externalizing information. Sorting and storing increases creativity. Levitin asserts that, in addition to helping you keep track of your life, sorting and externalizing information can also improve your creativity for 2 reasons. First, when you work in a well-organized environment, you know exactly where everything is. As a result, you don't spend time on the stressful task of searching for things you need, and are thus able to reduce your stress levels and save your brain power for creative thinking. Contrary to Levitin's assertion that clutter harms creativity, studies suggest that clutter may improve creativity. One theory posits that messy places signal your brain that it's okay to generate more unique, out-of-the-box ideas. Second, sorting and externalization improve your creativity by allowing you more opportunities to browse. When you look through a collection of some type, such as a group of files, your brain reverts to MW mode. Often, this mind-wandering leads to a creative insight which might help you solve an issue you've been facing. Why browsing leads to a creative insight. In Hyperfocus, Chris Bailey elaborates on why browsing might lead to a creative insight. We naturally remember things we haven't yet completed much better than the things we've completed, so when you're mind-wandering, your brain subconsciously works on problems it hasn't solved by connecting all the stimuli it encounters to your problem. Sometimes, the stimulus your brain encounters reminds it of something else it already knows. It connects this old information or the new stimulus, which may itself be the information you were missing, to your problem and solves it. For example, Greek mathematician Archimedes reaped the benefits of browsing while he was in the bath. He was tasked with determining whether the king's crown was made of gold, but he didn't know how to solve this problem, until he switched from focusing on the problem to taking a bath and noticed that water splashed out of his tub when he got in. He realized that immersing the crown in water to see how much water it displaced would help him determine its mass, and therefore whether it was solid gold. He discovered that it was not. Browsing may maximize the possibility of encountering the stimulus you need for a creative insight. The more you browse, the more stimuli you encounter, and the greater the likelihood you will encounter the stimulus you need to gain your creative insight. How to organize your thinking. Now that you understand the importance of sorting and externalizing information, how do you actually do it? In this section, we'll first discuss how to sort and externalize your thoughts so that they don't distract you. Then, we'll discuss how to sort and externalize your information in specific circumstances, such as when making difficult medical decisions. Finally, we'll review a potential pitfall of externalizing information and how to ensure it doesn't lead you to make bad decisions. How to externalize and sort distracting thoughts. As mentioned previously, our brains naturally want to wander, which often leads us to think of random but important thoughts at inopportune times. Sometimes, these thoughts distract you from a more important task. Other times, they merely arise when you can't do anything about them. For example, you might remember that you need to call the dentist on the weekend when the dentist's office is closed. To deal with intrusive thoughts, Levitin recommends using a note card system to externalize and sort your thoughts to ensure you get to them eventually. To do so, carry a pack of 3 by 5 note cards. Every time you think of something unrelated to your current task, write it down. For even more dramatic results, spend a few minutes before difficult tasks writing down other things that might grab your attention. Doing so will clear your mind of internal distractions and improve your ability to concentrate. Crucially, only put one thought on each card so that you can sort them more easily in the second step. For example, if you need to find recipes and go grocery shopping, write each task on separate cards. Second, Levitin suggests that you sort these cards daily. If you only have a few cards, you can sort them by priority. But if you have many, sort the cards into categories, then order them by priority within each category. These categories can be anything you like. Some people divide their cards by urgency, while others divide them by topic. For best results, Levitin recommends you keep these cards relatively loose, for example, not in a binder, so that you can reorganize them easily as your priorities change. If you struggle to find a particular category within your pile of loose cards, add one colored title card per category so you can find them easily. How a note card system improves the quality of your ideas. In How to Take Smart Notes, Sonk Ahrens describes a similar note card-based system, or slipbox system. This system is also designed to make you more productive, not by helping you stay on track and keep up with your tasks, but by helping you keep track of your ideas so you can more easily have original insights. Ahrens recommends that you use 3 by 5 note cards to record any random, potentially useful ideas, but not to-dos or potential distractions, as Levitin suggests, that occur to you throughout your day. He calls these fleeting notes. Store each day's cards in one place or an inbox. Each day, review your inbox and ask yourself, how might these ideas connect to each other? Once you hit upon an original thought, create an evergreen note, which is a loose index card containing one fleshed-out, original idea. Regularly discard your fleeting notes and place each evergreen note in a slipbox, a cabinet. Rather than dividing them by category or priority, file your evergreen note behind a a note it connects strongly to, for instance, an argument it supports, or B, your most recent note. Then, go through your slipbox to see if this note is connected to any other notes, and write that down. For example, if note number 1 and note number 3 are connected, write on each note that they're connected to the other. The loosely connected nature of the slipbox facilitates original ideas. The process of browsing through the slipbox increases the likelihood you'll have a creative insight, and since each evergreen note contains only one idea, it's easier to connect these notes to other potential ideas. How to organize medical information effectively. According to Levitin, one area in which externalizing information is particularly helpful is when making difficult medical decisions. Although your doctors can advise you on what to do, you are ultimately responsible for your own health. Oftentimes, this requires you to make decisions based on probability, like whether to take a particular medication that has some risk of harming you. Levitin warns against trying to intuit this decision, as many of us do, because we are notoriously bad at intuiting probabilities. There are several reasons for this. First, our brains often ignore the general likelihood or base rate of something. Second, we focus too much on the worst-case scenario because similar disasters stick out in our memories, even if they're statistically unlikely. Third, the way an issue is presented dramatically affects our judgment of it. All these phenomena can lead us to judge the probability of something incorrectly, and thus lead us to make poor medical decisions. For example, some women decided to get tested for BRCA1 and BRCA2 genetic mutations after actress Angelina Jolie's viral 2013 op-ed on how her own test results prompted her to have a preventative mastectomy. They likely did so despite the generally low base rate of having these mutations, which can lead to cancer. Because they wanted to prevent the worst-case scenario of having breast cancer, and because journalists focused on the benefits of Jolie's surgery and not her statement that most people don't have the mutation. But this wasn't necessarily a good thing. Most of these women didn't need the test, which led to millions of dollars in unnecessary healthcare spending. Other experts recommend several strategies for improving your ability to judge probabilities. First, the more you learn about statistics and probability, the better you get at not ignoring something's general likelihood. Second, the authors of Thinking Fast and Slow imply that vividly imagining both the worst-case and the best-case scenarios will decrease the likelihood that you'll focus too much on the worst-case scenario because both the good and bad will stick out in your memory. Third, the more you know about a particular topic, the less your judgment of it will be affected by how something is presented. Externalize probability. To make better medical decisions, Levitin recommends that you stop intuiting probabilities. Instead, externalize them using a fourfold table for statistically analyzing data, also known as a 2x2 contingency table. This allows you to calculate the likelihood of several possible specific outcomes given their base rate. When you write down the relevant numbers, you're able to see the probabilities, which allows you to rely on calculations rather than incorrect hunches when making medical decisions, and thus allows you to make better decisions. Several reviewers criticized Levitin's detailed description of how to calculate probabilities and make better decisions, arguing that his methods were too technical and required too much math for the average reader. Other experts recommend more accessible techniques for making better medical decisions. Notably, take your time. Oftentimes, you feel pressured to make a decision quickly since you have limited time with your doctor, not because you need the medical decision right away. The more time you can give yourself to make the decision, the better you're able to rationally evaluate the pros and cons, and the less likely you'll give in to impulse. However, Levitin clarifies that you should not rely exclusively on your own calculations when making medical decisions. An experienced doctor is often able to seemingly intuit accurate diagnoses and offer good treatment, not because she's guessing but because she's recognizing something with which she's familiar. She spent years looking at similar cases, so she has far more experiential data regarding how likely a particular outcome is, and she's intuitively able to compare your symptoms to her experience to generate a diagnosis and treatment. For example, if she's seen 2,000 cases of cancer, and 80% of people with a medical history like yours responded well to a particular treatment, she'll likely recommend that treatment to you too. How can you ensure that your doctor has enough experience in your medical condition to be able to pattern match effectively? Experts recommend that you ignore their official credentials, like what school they attended, and simply ask them how many similar cases they've seen or ask other hospital staff about the doctor. If other staff don't like your doctor, you should switch. If you need a different person to treat you, look for doctors who teach other doctors, known as fellowship directors. You'll find several at a teaching hospital. How to avoid the pitfalls of externalized information. Although Levitin focuses primarily on the benefits of externalizing information, he warns that externalized information can also have pitfalls. Levitin considers the internet to be a mostly useful external depository of information. However, he warns that the existence of a source doesn't guarantee its accuracy. Therefore, to ensure that externalizing information helps rather than harms you, develop the ability to evaluate that information well. First, Levitin suggests that you learn to critically evaluate your sources. Pay attention to the legitimacy of the source and whether they might have an ulterior motive. For example, a water filtration company's article about the dangers of unfiltered water may not be totally reliable. And remember that even legitimate sources, like major newspapers, still tend to have some bias. For example, a journalist may choose not to report on a story that would damage the newspaper's owner. Be especially careful during breaking news events. During such events, we often rely on the word of citizen journalists, who usually aren't as careful about verifying information before sharing it. If you're struggling to find good sources about a particular topic on the internet, consider visiting your local library and speaking to the reference librarian. A good reference librarian can point you to both internet and non-internet sources you may not otherwise have access to. Whether that's a book in the library catalog or a paid academic database, she is professionally trained to evaluate a source's legitimacy. If she's familiar with a particular source, she may even be able to tell you what biases this source may have. And while you should be wary of the accuracy of citizen journalists, don't totally discount them. If you're interested in hyperlocal breaking news, they may be the only people covering it online. Second, Levitin suggests that you learn to critically evaluate data. In particular, Levitin warns against confusing causation and correlation. When A and B happen together, we tend to believe that A caused B, but they may simply be related by chance. Alternatively, there may be some other factor C that caused both A and B, or is correlated with A and caused B. For example, if trees live longer in neighborhoods with worse roads, you may suspect that something about damaging paved roads improves tree health. But in reality, it may be that these neighborhoods simply can't afford to do any maintenance, so they don't fix their roads and don't alter the trees. Understanding the relationship between two variables. How can you tell whether two variables are merely correlated or may have a causal relationship? This usually requires further research. In Naked Statistics, Charles Whelan explains that statisticians often decide their next step based on a value called the correlation coefficient, which communicates the strength of the relationship between two variables. A coefficient of 1 means a perfect correlation, while a coefficient of 0 means no meaningful relationship. For example, if researchers investigating lead poisoning find a correlation coefficient of 0.8 between the amount of city water people drank and lead levels in their blood, these findings wouldn't prove that city water is causing lead poisoning, but it would warrant investigating the city's water quality. How to organize your things. In the previous section, we discussed how to externalize and sort information to make various mental processes easier. Similarly, Levitin suggests that you use the power of externalization and sorting to track your things, and thus free up more mental energy to focus on other tasks and make better decisions. In this section, we'll first discuss how your brain keeps track of your stuff. Then, we'll discuss how to work with your biology to better organize your things, and how to plan against potential issues. Levitin suggests that, when thinking about how to keep track of your stuff, there is a neurological trait, in addition to your brain's tendency to sort, that you should keep in mind. You are great at remembering where things are. This is because you have an entire brain region devoted to doing so, your hippocampus, which evolved to remember where important things, like the nearest source of fresh water, were in a pre-map era. In Moonwalking with Einstein, Joshua 4 argues that your brain is also good at remembering images due to ancient evolutionary needs. Back when our memory evolved, the most important things to remember were the routes between food and home, which your hippocampus takes care of, and which vegetation was edible, which depended on your ability to remember what it looked like. So if you need to remember an abstract concept, you should turn it into a creative image. Ideally something you've never seen before, since you're less likely to remember a specific instance of something you've already seen. For example, if you need to remember to charge your phone, imagine your phone and charger having a silly conversation. So how can you work with your biology to organize your physical objects? Levitin names 2 strategies. 1. Designate a place for everything. Thanks to your fantastic spatial memory, you're more likely to lose things that move rather than things that don't. For example, you likely often lose your phone but never the clock on your bedside table. When designating these spaces, take advantage of categories. You don't need to know where every fork you own is, as long as you know where all the silverware is. And if you own things that move regularly, either buy duplicates, if that's feasible, or assign them a place to live. For example, if you regularly carry your laptop around your house, always return it to your desk when you stop using it. Designating a place for everything is particularly important if you have ADHD, as you may be especially prone to putting down items without paying attention, which makes you more likely to lose them. Experts recommend establishing a habit of walking through your home each evening to pick up stray items and return them to where they officially live. You might also consider using gadgets to keep track of things that move regularly. For example, if you put a tile on your keys, you can make it ring using an app to help you find your keys if you lose them. If you have no idea where to put something, or you're just not sure where it goes yet, Levitin suggests having a junk drawer or a miscellaneous file. You'll inevitably encounter things you don't know what to do with and that don't warrant a single place. For example, you probably don't want to designate an entire drawer just for matches. Placing these items in a junk drawer will save you time and energy as you build your organized system. Remember that your junk drawer still needs to be somewhat organized. It should be a last resort for small items you're not sure what to do with, not a chaotic mess of trash, like old takeout menus, and things that actually belong somewhere else, like pens. Organization experts recommend purchasing drawer dividers so that you can easily see what's in your junk drawer. 2. Adjust the environment so that it reminds you what to do. This can be built into the organization system you select. For example, you might purchase a silverware organizer that's labeled with a picture on each slot that denotes which utensils go there. Alternatively, you can temporarily change the environment based on your needs, which will help you remember where something is because your attentional filter will pick up on it. For example, if you want to remember to send a letter, put it in front of the coffee maker so that you'll see it in the morning. However, remember that this only works because it's unusual. If your mail usually lives by the coffee maker, or if you forget to take the mail out and leave it there for a week, you'll stop noticing it because your attentional filter will get used to it and thus ignore it. Changing the environment so that it reminds you what to do is a type of signifier. In the design of everyday things, Don Norman explains that a signifier is a product feature that advertises how to use a product, like the push sign on a door. If you don't want to change the environment, you can also use technology to remind you what to do, and your attentional filter will pick up on the notification. For example, if you keep forgetting to send the letter in your car, you might set a location-based reminder so your phone reminds you to send the letter the next time you're near the post office. How to organize your digital information. You've learned how to organize your physical objects, but how should you deal with the digital spaces in your life? Just as with the real-life spaces, Levitin suggests that you take advantage of your spatial memory when organizing digital information by designating different virtual spaces for specific tasks. You can do so either by purchasing separate devices or by visually altering the same device to trick your brain. For example, you could purchase one computer for work and another for personal tasks. Or you could create 2 separate users on the same computer for your work self and personal self, and place different desktop backgrounds on each account. Then, when you need to find something like a receipt, you'll know where to look based on whether it was for business or pleasure. If you work from home, it's especially important to designate different virtual spaces for your personal and business tasks, whether that's by having separate devices or separate user accounts, and not just because doing so will help your brain know in what mode to operate. Notably, if your company owns the hardware you're working on, they may be able to monitor and can potentially leak your personal activity. And even if you're working on your personal computer, if you ever change jobs, trying to decide what work information you need to delete in a timely manner can increase your stress in an already stressful time. Levitin adds that if you're using your computer to track important files, You should sort them by type. This allows you to easily find your file in the computer even if you don't remember the exact file name. To sort your files, consider what higher order group each file might fall into, then separate them into folders accordingly. Levitin recommends that you have no more than 30 files in each folder. And when creating these files and folders, think about how you'll eventually look for them to make these classifications easier. For example, if you tend to remember when you did something, subdivide your business receipts folder by date. If you tend to remember what you paid for, sort them by task, like lunch receipts or utilities receipts. How other experts recommend sorting your digital files. Other experts agree that sorting your digital files can make your life easier, and they have several recommendations for doing so. Consider mapping out your folder structure on paper before you start separating your files. That way, you won't waste time moving files only to discover later that a different file structure works better. Decide on a naming convention to make it easier to look for these files later, like whether you'll name your folder lunch receipts or receipts lunch. Although they don't specify how many files you should have in each folder, they do recommend that you sort them in a way that minimizes overwhelm. For example, if you need to keep several years' worth of receipts, consider storing older files in a folder labeled Receipts Archive. Levitin warns that keeping digital files has one major drawback. They're not as permanent as paper. Unless it burns or you lose it, paper lasts forever. In contrast, you might lose your digital file either because your computer breaks or because the format becomes outdated. To avoid losing these files, Levitin suggests that you regularly back up your data to 2 separate drives. While one might break, it's unlikely that both will. Be wary of using cloud storage. If the service goes out of business, you'll lose all your files. Additionally, track your file types. Prior to updating your software, test your files to make sure they still work well on the new system. If they don't, convert them into a format that does before updating. How to save your files. If you're doing work you want to last for several years, paper may be a better choice. Biographer Walter Isaacson was able to chronicle Leonardo da Vinci's life relatively easily due to the artist's extensive diaries. But Isaacson struggled to reconstruct Steve Jobs' early process because many of his digital notes had been destroyed when the operating system of the computer they were stored in became obsolete. If you prefer digital files, consider backing up your data on both the cloud and external hard drives for maximum protection and convenience. The cloud allows you to access your data from practically anywhere, while the hard drive gives you access even if you don't have access to the internet. Don't try to save your access to old files by not updating your software. Many software updates fix bugs that hackers exploit to gain access to your personal data. How to organize your relationships. We've now discussed how to externalize and sort your things, but how can you use the power of externalization to improve your relationships? In this section, we'll explore why modern relationships can overwhelm us and how to externalize them to make them better and improve your decisions. Levitin suggests that we struggle to keep track of and maintain fulfilling relationships with the people who matter because we know so many people. In past eras, we spent time with a limited number of people, and when our connections changed, they did so slowly and because they were no longer relevant to our lives. But in the modern world, we know way more people. Many of us live in cities where we encounter far more people than our ancestors did. We regularly change jobs and move, so our connections change at far greater speeds, which only increases the number of people we have to keep track of at any given moment. And thanks to social media, we're able to keep track of people with whom we might otherwise have fallen out of touch. It's possible that we're cognitively incapable of maintaining the many and ever-changing relationships we have in the modern era. Based on his examination of hunter-gatherer societies and several modern artifacts, including companies and address books, anthropologist Robin Dunbar posited that we can only have meaningful relationships with 150 people, a figure known as Dunbar's number. Moreover, he also suggested that we can have up to 500 acquaintances and can recognize a maximum of 1,500 people. Dunbar argued that this limit is biological. The number of people we can know depends on the size of our neocortex, a brain region related to language, relative to our physical size. Levitin suggests dealing with the increase in social connections in two ways. First, create a database of your connections that includes information you'd like to remember about them, like where you met them or their spouse's name. You might create your own database. Alternatively, if you already have an external depository where you store your contacts, like your computer's address book, just add relevant information in each entry. Second, set an external reminder to contact important people in your life, such as by creating a recurring weekly event to call mom. Levitin contends that these two methods help you make better relationship-related decisions for two reasons. First, you'll remember more information about your connections, so you'll make better decisions about what to talk about with them. For example, if you remember that your friend's birthday is in January, you can ask her about that when you talk to her that month. Second, you'll contact them more regularly, which is in itself a good relationship-related decision as you're choosing to spend more time connecting with people you care about. Like Levitin, other experts agree that noting information about your contacts and remembering more information about them can improve your relationships. Ensure that you note down this information while you still remember it. If it's a new contact, asking how to spell their name will buy you the time you need to write down notes about them. Unlike Levitin, experts warn that even if using an external reminder increases the frequency with which you contact your loved ones, this may not necessarily improve your relationships since not everybody prioritizes frequency of contact. For example, if your long-distance friend hates talking on the phone, she may prefer that you catch up more rarely but in person. In conclusion, the organized mind offers valuable insights into how we can navigate the complexities of the modern world with clarity and focus. By implementing the principles outlined in this book, we can cultivate a more organized and efficient mindset. You can find the link to acquire a copy of this incredible book in the description below. Thank you for tuning in to our summary of The Organized Mind by Daniel Levitin. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you found this book summary helpful, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more book summaries and self-improvement tips to help you achieve your goals and lead a more fulfilling life. And share this uplifting summary with someone who may benefit from hearing them. Leave a comment down below if you've read this book or have any other recommendations for us. And also don't forget to explore our curated playlists of book summaries covering various topics. Stay tuned for more insightful content on our channel. Remember, in the age of information overload, a well-organized mind is key to success. Goodbye.